Welcome to another edition of our, couple podcast, Blasian Soul Podcast. We're happy for you guys to join us. We're also happy to everyone who looks at our scheduled and recorded podcast at a later date. Once again, thank you very much for believing in us and supporting us. This week, as I said before, we will have a doctor of sports psychology on. Minority, PhD, fully qualified in a industry that I guess a lot of us don't know about and don't know the specifics and kind of what that entails. So we will have Dr. Lennox Forrest on. My beautiful wife, Laura, is here with me, and as always,
welcome to the podcast show. I'm excited to hear what Dr. Lennox Forrest has to say today. I have no idea what sports psychology is. I don't even follow sports, so I'm going to be listening really hard so I can get educated on that aspect of it. He's also going to share with us a little bit about all the other things that he does in his practice as far as relationship counseling and marriage counseling. He does quite a bit. So pay attention and really soak up his knowledge because he is very, very diverse in his field. He is an expert of maybe over 18 years or so, I believe. And I'm really excited to have him on the show today. Let's introduce you to Dr. Lennox Forrest.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation. Just to give you a little bit of information about myself, I'm a clinical and counseling psychologist. I see a lot of people in my practice do marriage counseling. So people who are thinking about getting married, they may come to see me for what we call premarital counseling. Obviously, I see individuals who are married and are struggling in their relationships for many, many different reasons. One of the major problems that people have in relationships usually centers around communication. As men and women, we struggle to communicate. For example, in school, we take classes in reading, writing, arithmetic, spelling, but few of us ever take a class in listening. And most of us, when it comes to communication, we tend to focus on talking. But a great part of communication is listening, being able to understand what someone says. So that way, when they speak, you can understand and then you can regurgitate back to them exactly what they've said. So if that good communication hasn't taken place, then it's possible to have an understanding of what the person is saying. So that's a big part of my practice is dealing with marriage struggles between husband and wife. Also, I deal with family counseling. Within that family system, it can be a lot of problems. Most people think that in that family relationship, the strongest relationships are father and son, mother and daughter. But in actuality, the strongest relationship, the ones with the most depth and the most meaning, is what we call the cross-sectional relationships: father, daughter, mother, son. So a lot of dynamics within those different relationships. Another part of the work that I do is I do a lot of testing. Parents or someone from the school or someone from the courts may want someone evaluated in terms of what is their intellectual functioning. So we look at their IQ. I will test for that. We'll also look at their personality and other things. Also, I get a lot of referrals from the courts. Someone might want to come to evaluate someone's parenting ability, or if they're fit to be able to see their child on a regular basis. So evaluations can take many different angles, but generally a lot of intellectual testing, a lot of personality testing. I'm also able to consult with businesses in terms of how performance for the individual that they hire. Also, once again, look at doing some personality testing and how to improve performance and dealing with difficulty on the job between co-workers or managers.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
That's a good one.
yes. And then the other area that I do a good amount of work in is in the area of sports psychology.
Mhm.
I may be called in by a team or someone from the front office in regards to a player issue, or it could be a team issue. And once again, when it comes to sports, performance is extremely important. Most viewers of sports tend to just look at it as enjoyment, but sports is a very, very serious business. And if you're not winning or if you're not performing very well, then you can be very, very expendable. So helping athletes to perform at a high level or teams to function more effectively is a part of sports psychology.
Yeah.
All right. So first off, let me say that you have a wide range of expertise, which is very impressive. Can you tell us how you, number one, why did you get into the field? And number two, what was your journey? What was your schooling? What was the path to get you to where you are now?
That's a very good question. In terms of the path, as a psychologist, I think a psychologist to really be effective, they have to love people. Okay. So for me, I enjoy people. I love meeting them. I love interacting with them, and I love helping them. That's why the field of psychology is called the helping profession. So that was the motivator, is to be able to help people with their struggles. And in terms of the segment, in terms of sports psychology, growing up at a young age, I played a lot of sports. And for the most part, I was a pretty good athlete. When I decided to become a sports psychologist, I was in graduate school, and I was very fortunate to develop a good relationship with Muhammad Ali.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the first day that I was in graduate school, I was looking for a place to live, and someone told me that Muhammad Ali lived down the road. He was my boyhood idol. So the next day, I went to his house.
Oh, wow.
He lived on a huge property, and it was gated, but the doors were open. So that particular day, I went there and I knocked on the door, and I waited and waited. And as I was turning to leave, Muhammad came to the door. He had been sleeping all day. So he came to the door and he looked at me and he said, "You look like Joe Frazier. I'm going to whoop you and I'm going to do all." So it was just amazing. I couldn't believe it. So he invited me in, and that first day, probably spent about an hour and a half with him, just him and I. And we watched a lot of movies of his previous fights. He showed me a lot of photos, and we just sat back and we just talked and we just had a great time. Just could not believe it. And after that, he gave me his number and he told me to come back and visit him anytime. So one of the most important things I learned from him is that he was a psychologist himself. He was a psychologist. He really was. And he psychologized a lot of his opponents. Beat before the boxing match started.
Right.
Just spending all that time with him really piqued my own interest in sports psychology, and also having played sports, many different types growing up as a young person. So that's why I became really intrigued with sports psychology. We give a lot of that to Muhammad Ali. He was just a special person, and he just embraced me in his world, and he just taught me so much. So I always treasure that experience with him.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Muhammad was one that played mind tricks on you. He was known for that, to kind of get you out of your comfort zone.
Right.
When he was one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time.
Yes.
Now, as far as schooling is concerned, what did you have to do to get where you are currently?
Okay, so educationally, I did what's called a bachelor's degree. So that's 3 years to complete that. And I was, at that time, initially, I was going to become a lawyer. So I was focused on political science. And that was the track that I was going to take. But somehow I deviated from that. And I'm very, very happy that I did not pursue law school. I think I would have been a good attorney, but the problem with being a good attorney is that you have to bend the truth.
Very true.
Yeah, and sometimes when you bend that truth, you can't sleep well at night.
It's true.
So as a psychologist, I know that when I go into my office and I see anyone, I don't have to bend the truth.
Right.
I can be upfront, I can be honest, and that way I can go to sleep and sleep soundly, knowing that I was open and honest with the people that come and see me.
Makes sense.
It's interesting that in my practice, I see a lot of attorneys. Okay.
Right.
A lot of attorneys. And I know that if I become an attorney, being that I have that competitive spirit and wanting to win, it'd be easy for me to bend the truth. One of the things that Muhammad always taught me is that everybody loves a winner. And
yes.
He's absolutely right. But you also have to win honestly. So as a psychologist, I see people and I tell them, I expect 2 things from you. Number one, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. And I just want you to answer the question to the best of your ability. And number 2, be honest with me. And I know that being honest is hard, it's difficult, it's tough, but it's important to be honest with me. That way I understand things in the right way, and I can give you the best possible help that I can, and know that I will be honest with you. Okay, so those 2 things I ask people to just be upfront, because honesty is extremely important, especially when you're trying to help people. Because if they don't tell you everything, you can't give them the best possible help. So coming back to your question, I completed a bachelor's degree, which is 3 years. And then I completed a master's degree, which is 2 years. And then my doctorate, that took 4 years. And then you go through what's called 1 year of internship. And then after that, you do another year of postdoctoral internship. So that's the path that I took in order to become what's called a fully licensed psychologist.
Okay.
Since COVID, Doctor, what have you seen has been kind of the trend right now? Is there anything that you're seeing that is kind of going up as far as patients needing help?
That's another good question. Here's what I say in terms of COVID-19. It has really destabilized people's lives. And I'm seeing a few things clinically. Number one, people's anxiety level is off the charts. Okay? Anxiety is just so high right now. People are nervous, they're worried, tremendous amount of consternation. And this type of anxiety that we're seeing is so different because people just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay? So the worry is so high. That anxiety medication has spiked about 36%.
Wow.
Yes. So it's a very different anxiety.
Yeah.
And we can't really put a finger on it, but the anxiety level that people are experiencing is just so high. And I'll give you a slight example of that. I had a consultation with a dentist the other day. One of the things that he was saying is that what he's seeing clinically is that people are grinding their teeth more.
Oh, wow.
And obviously, that's a sign of significant anxiety.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that we're seeing. Secondly, people's depressive symptoms are off the scale as well. And medication for depression has spiked to about 30%. So
Wow.
that depression and anxiety, those levels in the population has increased tremendously. Okay. Now, with depression, I tell a lot of people that when someone is depressed, clinically, that's saying that that person is angry. So depression is anger turned inside out. So we're seeing tremendous depression, significant anger with people. Fuse is very, very short, easy for people to lose control and to strike out. So we're seeing that in significant proportion. Another thing that we're seeing is that people are taking their lives at a higher rate. Okay, the suicide rate has spiked, and once again, I believe that is COVID related.
Yeah.
Now we know that one of the cures for COVID is to socially distance yourself from others. And we are not biologically wired to be socially distant. We are wired to be in community with each other, in fellowship.
Yeah.
So not being able to see someone, not being able to interact, to engage, to give someone a hug.
Right.
People are losing hope in many, many different ways. So we're seeing an increase in the suicide rate as a result of COVID-19 and people not being able to connect, to embrace, to spend time together. Because socially distancing yourself is just counterintuitive to how we are made in God's image.
Exactly.
God created us to be in fellowship with one another. So this COVID-19 has really changed people's lives in many ways. And one of the keys to suicide is when someone feels that they are totally hopeless, they have lost hope. So if you lose hope, there's no incentive, there is no motivation to live and to embrace life because you're seeing things doom and gloom. There's a sociologist by the name of Emil Durkheim. He did one of the most comprehensive studies on suicide about 100 years ago. And that study is still relevant. He is saying that when there is little social cohesion, the suicide rate goes up. Okay, when there's a disconnection in society and a disconnection from people, that's when we're going to see suicide increase. And that's exactly what we're doing now. So his study done over 100 years ago is very, very relevant for what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what are some of the signs that we, can look for in our loved ones when it comes to signs of depression or things to look out for so we can see if we can reach out to them and offer some assistance?
Okay, very good question. If you see someone's mood changing rapidly, 1 minute they might be happy, next minute they might be sad. So we're seeing this mood swing shifting quickly. So pay attention to something like that. Okay? If you see someone become very, very irritable, snappy, grouchy, grumpy, lashing out, pay attention to that.
Okay.
Also, if you see someone who's normally engaging and interactive with someone begin to isolate themselves and not have interaction with others in terms of their usual way of doing things, that's a sign that something might be going on. If someone is not sleeping, their sleep pattern changing. For example, they're up all night during the day. Take note of that.
Okay.
Because when people don't sleep, one of the things that happens with that is that they can easily lose their mind. A lot of studies have been done on what's called sleep deprivation, where they put people in a chamber and they examine them in the laboratory. And when people don't sleep consistently or for a significant amount of time, mentally they begin to decompensate and the person will lose their mind. So pay attention to sleep. Very, very important. And you want to look at someone, are they eating? Okay? Are they eating consistently? If they're not eating, that's telling you something. So when you see someone deviating from their normal behavior, pay attention. Okay? If you see someone beginning to use a lot of alcohol in increasing amounts, if you're seeing them using substances, something that they didn't used to do before, make sure you pay attention to that.
Okay.
If you see someone engaging in risky behavior, once again, they could be driving at high rates of speed, just doing something bizarre. Pay attention to those types of things. So make sure that you're looking at things, you're assessing the person to see if there's a major deviation. When it comes to someone who you think might be suicidal, pay attention to them if they're talking about suicide or if they're talking about death, right? If they have a plan for suicide, okay? Do they start giving away personal items and belongings?
Oh, wow.
Pay attention to those signs because that's telling you that something is going on.
How are some of the ways that we could reach out to them? Because I know that a lot of times when people are depressed or when they're in their zone, they don't really want anyone to let anyone in. Are there different ways that we could reach out to them or get to them?
Without offending them.
Right.
Because there's a negative connotation with depression. So in a way that we're not embarrassing them, but we're just showing that we care.
Exactly.
Well, that's a good question. And the first thing you want to let them know is that, you know what? I'm not being judgmental. I'm coming as a friend or a family member that cares about you. And I love you. So here's what I'm seeing. Do you want to talk? And if you don't want to talk to me, how about if we make an appointment to see someone? And if you would like me to come, I'm more than willing to come. So you put it out there. You extend the invitation. You know what? I'm not being intrusive, but this is what I'm seeing, and I'm concerned because I certainly don't want anything to happen to you. Okay. So you frame it in a friendly way, and you ask open-ended questions. So that will give them an opportunity, hopefully, to talk and to share and to open up and to just let them know that you're there.
Right.
What?
And to listen with an understanding, listen to understand, not listen to talk. That's over. Right. So just let the person just speak, right?
Yeah.
So let's kind of shift gears a little bit. I know that this is what we're here for, is the sports psychology. So
well before we get to that, let me just ask. I understand your clients are athletes or sports teams in that particular field. Is there a preferred client? And let me give you an example of that. Would you rather be the psychologist for a LeBron someone who is on top of their individual sport, but along with that comes a multitude of problems, a multitude of expectations, always have to be on point, so to speak, in front of and behind the camera. Or would it be somebody who is a middling player trying to get to that another level? Maybe a guy just getting off his rookie contract who has made it, but now that he's made it, it's an uphill battle to become more than just an average player.
To stay where he's at.
So which one would you prefer to have as your client?
That's a good question. Based on my experience, I would say that I embrace them all. Let me give you an example. There's an individual that a team called me to work with, and this person was making significant monies, millions. But the problem is that he had a real attitude problem. So the management brought me in. When they called me, they said, you know what? He's a great player. He's phenomenal. We love him. But if he doesn't get right, his attitude can't change. We are willing to terminate his contract.
Wow.
So a situation like that is challenging to me, because number one, when someone is having an attitude problem, that says a lot. Because when you're making 15, 16, $20 million, and your attitude is not what it needs to be, no matter how great you are, he is willing to part company with you, because as they say, now you become a cancer to the team. So that's a challenge for me, is to obviously help someone that they can be. Another situation where they call me in at times is if an athlete has been injured. Obviously, he's recuperating, he's healing, but one of the things that's happening there is that his confidence is shaken.
Sure.
I perform again at that high level that I was performing at before. And I'm anxious because what if I get out there and I injure myself again? So that's a confidence issue. In a situation like that, I'm happy to be involved in, because once it's one-on-one. But I also like dealing with the entire team, because the team concept, it's a sum of parts, and the sum can only function as well as everyone plays together.
That's true.
So any situation, I embrace it.
Got it.
Very good question.
So how do you help teams? So just kind of helping them, training them on how to interact with each other, and back to the whole thing with communication, or?
With the team, it's always looking at their strengths and their weaknesses.
Okay.
I remember one particular team that I was working with, what we always did is when the playoffs came around, myself and the coaching staff, we would identify one or two players that could play at a higher level. Playoffs that we felt, you know what? If we got this much out of them, it's just going to help the team that much more. We need you to make all of those 3-pointers. We need you to make every free throw. We need you to distribute that ball, whatever it is. So we would identify one or two people during playoff time, and then my job was to do what we call mental conditioning, and then helping to elevate that player's confidence. Okay. Now, there are times where I might work with a fighter, someone who might be having a championship fight. That's a one-on-one situation where we're really just focusing that fighter's mind in terms of what he needs to do in the ring. So myself and the trainer, we would identify certain things that we feel that he needs to do to be successful. And we working on that skill, working on him mentally so that he can perform at a high level. One of the things that Muhammad used to tell me is that to be a great fighter or a great athlete, you have to have the skill and the will. You have to have the skill and the will. They're both important, but the will is more important. That's
The willpower.
Now, you were just talking about you and the coaching staff getting together and coming up with various plans, depending on what the situation was it whether or not it was the playoffs or you guys were in a funk, whatever the case may be. Do you find that it is a conflict of interest that the team is the one that pays you, but the actual client or the patient is the athlete?
That's a good question. It's not a interest, but it can come across as that. Because number one, the team more or less owns the player.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And sports is a serious business. That's what I want people to understand. It's a serious business. To just watch it on television, that's another thing. But to be in the arena, in the press box, and you realize that those general managers, they agonize just when a player makes a shot or misses a shot.
Oh, wow.
Because it's all about winning. And if you can't win, you're expendable. Okay? Marcelo knows that the number of coaching jobs that are available right now.
Yeah.
And the coaches did well. The team did well.
Yeah.
But they're out of a job.
Wow.
Someone is always there to take your job.
Yeah.
It's not a conflict of interest for me because number one, I know that yes, I'm working for the team, but I'm also working for the player.
Yeah.
And my job is to get that player to perform at a higher level so that the team will be pleased and he will feel good about himself.
Right. So he can keep his job.
Exactly.
Okay. So yeah, now because of your expertise in sports, we came up with a little pick'em challenge that we're going to do. I've gotten quite a few entries already, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But just for the people who do not know what it is, what we'll be doing is we'll be picking the upper echelon of the NBA sports, NBA playoffs. And what that will entail is that the contestants will be picking the representatives for the Western Conference Finals. That's 2 teams. The representatives for the Eastern Conference Finals. Those are 2 teams. Who gets to the finals out of those 4 teams, and ultimately who wins. The tiebreaker will be who is the leading scorer for each team. So that puts a little pressure on everyone because they're going up against a professional. It puts a little pressure on our professional because everybody's going to want bragging rights over the PhD expert. And just for, I guess, to keep everything transparent, while we were talking, I think it was Thursday or Friday night, he had told me that Toronto would win that series. And I told him, no, Boston would win. So, I mean, I'm going up against a professional. Those are bragging rights for me. I told my wife as soon as it was over, hey,
so excited.
you know Boston won, right? You know I was right. So
I think he told me like 3 times.
I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah. Now, I'm going to be posting everyone's picks. I'll be posting my picks. I'm going to make Pawn do one as well, because it's always, if you ever do like March Madness It's always the people who have no idea about football, but just pick a team because their mascot or their colors, and they end up going farther than those of us who really research March Madness. So she'll be picking one. I'll be picking one.
Do I win the $100?
We can talk about that. Dr. Forrest will put in his, and everyone out there. And we got about 18 people thus far. So hopefully I want to get to that magical maybe 50 mark, so it can be competitive in nature. But yes, we will be giving away a $100 gift card, and I will be posting I might say my picks out tonight, but we want to get Dr. Forrest's picks on air so that we might be able to ask any questions that we might have about his picks. But we want to see what the sports psychologist thinks of the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. So, sir, are you ready to give us your knowledge?
Yeah. Well, that Boston and Miami series is a very good series. Okay.
That's going to be a great series.
Great. And that's a tough pick.
Yep.
But I'm going to go with Miami.
You're going to go with Miami, the underdog, so to speak.
What's that?
Wow.
I said the underdog, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the underdog. Miami, I don't know what their season record is with Boston, but they've surprised a lot of people.
That is very true. Very, very true. They have they're deep as well, so that helps.
That's right. They have a clearly defined leader.
Yes.
Jimmy Butler.
Yes.
And Jimmy comes to play.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Miami dismantled the number 1 seed.
Yes.
Okay. And they did it somewhat effortlessly. Okay. Boston is a good team. Tatum is probably their leader. I'm not sure if everybody will agree with me.
Definitely. I think he's taking that mantle from Kemba Walker.
Right. But we know definitely that Jimmy Butler is the leader for Miami. Yep. And he has showed it with his skill, with his leadership. And yes, he's the underdog in the Heat. So I'm going with Miami. But
what games?
What's that?
What will be the game count? 4-2, 4-3? Is it going 7?
That's a series that could go 7.
Okay.
It could go 7. All right. So there you have it. But a very interesting series and a tough pick because Boston is coming into their own. As I said, I felt that Toronto was going to take Boston, even though when you look at it, Boston had the edge because they went up too quick, 2-0. And as I said to you earlier, Toronto was the defending champions.
Yes.
And they fought back. So I had to give them a plus for that, for the simple fact that they came and they tied the series.
Yep.
All right. So with the 7th game, I felt that they had the greater motivation winning that game in overtime. Okay. But it was a good series, fairly evenly matched because Boston now is playing at a high level.
Yes.
Now let's go to the Western Conference. We saw a game today unfold.
Yep.
And a lot of people are probably thinking that the Clippers should have finished this in 4 or 5 games.
Easily, they should have.
But once again, in psychology, we're taught that what appears to be is not always what it is.
Okay.
Even though it appears that the Clippers should be finished with this series, they're not. And in sports, it's not always the best team that wins.
That's true as well.
It's not always the best team.
Yeah.
You have to look at a lot of the intangibles, things that you can't see just on the surface.
Right.
Now, do I believe that the Clippers will win the next game? Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but Denver, remember what I said that Ali said.
It's
The
the
skill and the will.
Mhm.
Denver has the will.
Yes, wholeheartedly.
Okay?
Yeah.
And Muhammad said the will is more important than the skill.
Yep,
Okay.
I agree.
So it's a tough pick, but I'm going to go with the Clippers because once again, the Clippers have a superstar.
Yes.
Okay? Paul George is a great player, but he's not a superstar in my opinion.
You don't think so?
Not in comparison to Kawhi.
Okay.
Okay, if we're comparing them.
Mm-hmm.
Kawhi is a superstar. He can win a game almost by himself.
Okay.
All right, even though basketball is a team game, but I'm giving the Clippers the edge, even though Denver has the will.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm.
So now we have the Lakers versus the Clippers.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
I'm going to say this. And I have to be careful what I say because I have to protect certain things.
Okay.
But I know enough about LeBron that I can't bet against LeBron.
That's fair.
Okay, that's all I can say.
Yeah.
I can't bet against him because I know too much.
Okay.
If there's one player that I would want on my team to carry the team,
LeBron.
LeBron.
okay,
Okay.
I can't say much more than that. So I'm taking the Lakers. And if it's the Lakers and the Clippers,
Mhm.
that's a phenomenal series right there.
Yes, definitely.
I'm gonna
Phenomenal.
have to watch basketball now.
Because
What what's the numbers for the games? Will it go 7?
I think that will go 7.
I think that will 7. Means that each team will win 3,
7.
and then they'll have the last game, winner go home.
Right.
Oh, okay.
What makes it very intriguing this year is that there is no home court advantage.
Exactly, because of the bubble.
Right. Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, I agree. That even the playing field a lot, I believe.
It really does.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Okay, so we have an NBA Finals of Miami, which hasn't been since the LeBron era, and the Lakers, who hasn't been since the Kobe era. Who comes out on top and why? Or is it just I can't bet against LeBron?
I'm going to make it easy. Can't bet against LeBron. Okay.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to say this. I've watched them practice a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The Cleveland Cavaliers.
Okay.
And one thing that always stood out to me when I was there, LeBron James was the first player on the court, and he was the last player off the court.
Wow.
I saw that with my own eyes time after time.
Wow.
Okay? And it just makes other people better.
Right.
His vision on the court, it's just at another level. So it's hard for me to bet against LeBron.
I can respect that. I kind of feel the same way at times as well with LeBron. What will be the final as far as games? Will this go 7?
No, I don't think this will go 7. I'm thinking 6.
6. Okay.
5.
Those are some good picks. I don't differ much from them, but I will say that in my opinion, the Clipper-Laker series is a toss-up.
It is.
Because you are correct. I don't think Paul George is on the level of Kawhi, but just last year he was an MVP candidate. So at the very least, he's a high-end all-star. And I don't think that when you look at him from, 1 to 12 or 1 to 9, however many people they're going deep, the Clippers have a better bench, which I think might come into play in a series like this. So that series is up in the air to me. On the subject of LeBron, but we do have your picks. Everybody, please get out and make your picks. The easy $100. We will definitely have him back at the end of the finals to kind of give his analysis, and we'll talk about the actual wager and who won and all of that good stuff. But please get out here. Take you 5-6 minutes tops. Send it in, and it'll be fun for everybody. You're kind of going up against the expert there. But I was going to say, on the subject of LeBron, so who do you say is the GOAT, LeBron or MJ?
Well, you're asking some tough questions. Boy.
LeBron.
That's a hard one.
He can't bet against LeBron.
Hard one.
Well, MJ is a different beast, though. You can't. I mean, he's different.
Good question.
I'm one of the few that I lean towards LeBron. And the reason why I lean towards LeBron is that how long he's been doing it at the high level that he's been doing. I mean, this year he was in the running for MVP, and that's year 17.
Yes.
And the only knock that I can see that people have in that debate is that MJ went to the final 6 times and won 6 times. But I was debating with someone the other day that, do you know how hard it is to take some of the teams that LeBron took to the finals? And MJ lost in the first round of the playoffs. So he has lost in the playoffs. I would rather get all the way to the finals and lose than lose in the first round of the playoffs. And the reason being is because, number one, you are viewed as the second best team. And while that is a consolation prize, that is still a prize over getting outed in the first round. Two, as many times as he's done it with as many different teams is another testimony. It's kind of easy, or I believe it's easier if you're with one team and they continue to cater to what they need to be successful around you. It's quite another to go to different teams and build that culture up. So in my opinion, it's very close. I would give the slight edge to LeBron, but my argument is LeBron ain't even finished yet. So if it's that close now, him playing 2 or 3 more years to just shut the door on the conversation.
That's it. Let me go back to what Muhammad said. Everybody loves a winner, and LeBron is a winner.
No doubt. We did get a comment from Omar Knox, which is my brother. And his response was, LeBron will choke. Kawhi and the Clippers got it this year. To him, I say, well, then you need to get in your playoff bracket, because that is in complete opposite of what Dr. Forrest said. So maybe you win this $100, or maybe you do not. And I post exactly what your picks were and show how wrong you were. We got to see, because he's my brother, so I got to give him but yes, I do think it's close. But like I said, since LeBron's story hasn't finished yet, by the end, when he truly retires, I think that it will be a done deal. Here's another one for you. So you believe that LeBron is better than Kawhi as well, correct?
Yes.
All right. What about Kobe and D Wade as far as the second best 2 guards ever? Who do you pick?
Kobe was phenomenal.
Kobe was phenomenal.
It's phenomenal.
See, and that's where we differ. I'm a D Wade guy. I think D Wade is just, he was He was insane for his time.
Yes.
But okay, so we have your picks. I always throw a curveball at the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
So and this is for the conservatives as well as the liberals, if you had President Trump on your couch and you were treating him, or you were, hearing his story, based on what you know of his personality from him being the president, what would be two pros and two cons of his personality and way of thinking? That's a tough one.
Good question. Well, if I was able to do a clinical interview with President Trump, I would want to ask him,
Oh, wow.
what happened to you?
Right.
What happened to you?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we look at someone's behavior and how they function, we always have to look at someone's childhood, family of origin. How did that play out?
Mm-hmm.
Because your childhood affects how you behave now as an adult.
Sure.
And your family of origin has an impact on your adult life. So I would like to ask, what happened in your childhood?
Right.
It seemed like he had struggles with his parents,
Yes.
with his father.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'd like to know what happened there. Because from what I know, his father sent him away to a boarding school.
Okay.
Okay, and it seemed like, if you look at his history, grandparents, they're engaged in unsavory business practices.
Yes.
Okay, and that still is occurring today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now politics, unfortunately, it's a dirty business.
Yes.
Okay, he wasn't a politician in his previous life, but if you really look at it, he was, because there's tremendous dishonesty.
Mm-hmm.
And a person can't lead if they've never been a follower.
Wow.
Okay?
That's true.
And you can't lead the people unless you love the people.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing struggles there.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Mm.
That's true.
Willing to do anything to win.
Yes.
Anything.
Mm-hmm.
Someone willing to go that length to win
Mm-hmm.
and not win fairly.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to ask, what happened?
What happened?
Right.
What got you that like that? Mm-hmm.
Right. Makes sense. Makes sense, definitely.
Yeah.
So tell everyone if they wanted to get in touch with you, as far as possibly utilizing your services, or need advice, or just wanted to see where you are on the internet, what's your contact information?
Okay. In terms of the internet, they can look me up at www.mentalpsych.com. Okay, mentalpsych.com.
Okay.
The way they can find me is they can reach out to my assistant, and she can be reached or text at 616-550-0744. Or they can send me an email at drforrest.faith@gmail.com. Or
And
they can
Forrest
call me also at 616-249-8486. So I think those are good contact to reach me.
Oh, no.
They're here.
Okay. Okay. And we'll be posting all of this information on our various social media platforms. You will see mention of Dr. Forrest. We've already been posting a lot of stuff leading up to this, but we'll be posting a ton more this week, not only for the contact information, but along with the Pick'em Challenge. We will be splitting up some of the podcasts in just question and answer based so that you'll see snippets of pertinent questions that he answered. So you'll see a lot of him on Blasian Soul podcast, as well as our personal social media platforms. So if you think that you need his help, if you know of someone that you think needs his help, or you just need some general advice, we recommend you contacting him. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Forrest.
Thank
And
you.
you do treat patients all over, right? Because you do the telecounseling as well. Okay, just so that the viewers know that doesn't matter where they live, your services are open to not only the people in Grand Rapids, but also through the internet, teleconferencing and things like that, right?
That's
okay.
Correct.
Perfect. Awesome.
It's awesome. People to cross boundaries now.
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really awesome. So, well, we appreciate your time. Mm-hmm. We thank you for being on our show. I'm sure we'll have you back again. And
we'll definitely have you back when the finals is over with. Is that okay?
It would be my pleasure.
I want to be able to brag, so therefore we'll have to have you back. But yes, we'll have you back. Maybe we'll delve into some of your other expertise as well. But yes,
when does the playoff end?
Well, the Western Conference hasn't even started yet.
So okay.
We're talking about weeks.
Okay. Yes.
So I'll put my picks in and see what happens.
That's going to be interesting. Let me just say that will be interesting because she'll ask me in a minute when I'm watching a basketball game, did he get the first down? So
or the goal.
Yeah. So without a doubt, that will be an interesting experience.
First down.
Yeah. But once again, thank you, Dr. Forrest. You have a great day, and we'll talk with you soon.
Yes.
My pleasure. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
So that is our podcast for this week. Everyone, thank you for kind of tuning in, listening to us. If you didn't get a chance to hear us live, please check out our streaming versions that we have on social media platforms, on our website itself. Once again, we try to keep it to an hour because we know everybody's getting ready for work and you got things to do. But thank you for being on the show. Please do your pick 'em picks. You can check out social media. I have brackets there that you can download if you need to, or just write in your answers. But it's $100. You're going up against an expert who's dealt with NBA players and NFL players. So that should be fun. If you win and you are open to this, we'll definitely have you on the podcast with the doctor so that you can kind of, tout your victory, I guess, so to speak, and kind of get your viewpoint in as well. But that's all for me. Thank you very much. Anything from you?
No, happy Sunday. Enjoy this nice weather that we had today. And we'll see you soon. See you next Sunday, same time, same place.
Deuces.
Bye.